speaking of opening up, I feel like that's been a big topic this season of people opening up or not opening up or sharing their stories. Why do you think that the other cast members have been stressing that so much? And then why do you also feel like you've gotten backlash, whether directly from them while filming or in their confessionals about your story or how you've opened up or lack thereof?
Specifically to my background or
Yeah,
just,
specifically to your background. I mean, we've seen that in the last two episodes when you've spoken about your background and they've kind of criticized it to your face, but then also in their confessionals.
yeah, it really was very confusing. And I guess I should start by saying, like, I'm the type of person that I'll open up freely and openly if I feel like it's a safe environment to do so. And I think you see them sort of picking apart at Jenna, during that dinner and at the first dinner in Anguilla. And then they asked me about my background, like right after that. And I kind of just like felt myself tensing up a little bit because I just didn't feel very sort of comfortable in that moment. But the truth of the matter is that I do find it hard talking about myself. I don't know if that's like a thing, but I feel like in that moment, no matter what I said, I feel like they were looking for holes in a way. I really am very proud of my background. And I will always, as a daughter of an immigrant, start by sharing how or where my parents came from, and which is what I did. And it obviously like didn't resonate, which I'm quite shocked about actually. But I will always start by that because it informs my identity, it informs the color of my skin. I mean, I am as an Indian woman, I don't like we don't have a straight like lineage. Like we're Indian, but my parents are East African and then I'm British. So it's quite a dynamic, I would say, and diverse sort of mix of cultures and the way I grew up was it was extremely interesting. But what I was getting at was my parents, there was I go back to this political uprising because it really was, they were very happy in East Africa. And when all this turmoil started to happen, they were sort of forced to uproot their lives and come to England. And so I think that changed the course and trajectory of everything for them. They weren't able to get an education. They had to sort of dive into their workforce. They had to support their families. And my mom was, I mean, she started working at 16 and has really never stopped. Like she was sort of the sole provider even for her family. I just, for me, that like, it was really kind of an important story to tell. And I don't know why it was not received that well. And I think part of the issue was that they thought I was comparing my struggles to Bryn and Sai. That wasn't the case at all. Like how I grew up, and let me just be clear, like, yes, my parents had to work their asses off and that they had to have a very strong work ethic and they really didn't have any days off, right? Like they really worked very hard to give us a roof over our heads, and we never didn't have anything, right, that we needed. But it was a very simple life. They were hardworking, middle class, people. And I think that maybe when I was telling the story, that didn't really resonate because Bryn and Sai obviously have such a different upbringing.
As much as they couldn't understand it or maybe relate to it in that moment, I think there's a lot of people that can.
Yeah.
Um, and
And that I'm so grateful for that because I feel like the like our story as first generation, immigrants, like we don't really get the credit that we sort of deserve. I think people look at us now and yes, we're accomplished and yes, we have an education, but that didn't come on a silver platter. And so when Erin kept saying to me, like, oh, your parents didn't help you, like they didn't like do this, like X, Y, and Z for you, I was getting so triggered because my parents instilled a very strong work ethic, and I actually worked very hard to get where I am. And in England, like, yeah, I said my dad paid for college, but in England, college is based off of education and merit. So like you actually have to take a standardized test to get into school. And then I got a government loan. And so yes, while he sort of subsidized like what he could, it was based off of my own work ethic and merit. And the second part of that, and what I was trying to get through, that also didn't resonate, was when I moved to New York. I had family here that, you know, obviously lived here, and I was able to come to New York because they were able to put a roof over my head. But when you come to America as a foreigner, I was interning. I was on this student visa. It was like a J1 visa, and you're not allowed to legally work. You're only allowed to intern. So I wasn't legally allowed to like work and get paid. I was interning for free in order to get the experience I needed to get a job to then eventually get paid. So like, you know, and that was kind of the struggle like I was going through here. Like when I said I didn't have that much money in my bank account and I was living on savings, like the system here is not favorable to people that are not from here. And I think that's the other part of my story was, yeah, I always had like a phone a friend like line that I could call my parents if I ever needed to, but I also didn't want to. I wanted to work and prove to everyone that I was able to do it, and I did it by myself. And that also was hard work and perseverance, you know.
What has it been like watching the episodes in real time and seeing kind of their behind the scenes commentary? And have you spoken to any of your castmates or had any dialogue with them about what they've said that, you know, you maybe have not seen till now?
Yeah, you know, I think that there's definite sort of cultural like misunderstandings. And I think a lot of that comes in, you know, when I am telling the story about my parents, like Sai doesn't really understand like why. Because she keeps saying it's your parents' story, it's not your story. But like I think that it was a bit of a disconnect to me. And I think for Erin, she thought, I don't know what she was thinking. I think that she thought the way I was telling my story was that I literally had nothing. Like I came from like absolute poverty. And that was also a misconstrued like conception. You know, but she had started assuming a lot of things about me even before she knew me really, based on, I mean, she said it was based on the way my mom looked, which is so weird.
That
Like,
is,
yeah, she was like, I saw your parents. And I was like, yeah, but that's judging a book by its cover. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. I have since explained a little bit more, and I think we sort of know each other a little bit more. And I think that we're in a better place. But you know, I think the pressures of the show to kind of also like just open up and share your story and like what is that? And like I think it all kind of, it's a lot. Like it's just, yeah.
yeah, it is a lot. And I mean, I feel like they've also made some like cracks at you in confessional saying like, oh, she's long-winded, or even like joking about your sex life with Pavet. Like, how has that made you feel? And do you have any response to that, or do you just kind of take it as, you know, a joke or take it in stride?
I just think that like there are things that you can be playful about, but then there are things that are just not really, like it just comes across as not very like kind. And I do think there's a fine line between the two. Like I think the way sometimes like Bryn does it, like she like jokes about it and it is funny and you know that it's coming from a place of like humor. I think sometimes the things that they're saying isn't necessarily like, I think it does come across as you know, a little bit ignorant, to be honest.
How has your life changed since joining the show, and how do you feel about the revamping the RHONY franchise?
Oh my God. Well, I can't really go to Whole Foods without being stopped. That's one thing. But I think in general, like it's made us very aware. Like I think watching yourself on TV over the course of, you know, several months, like I'm so self-aware about how I talk, how I you know, how I sort of engage with others. It just makes you sort of look at yourself in a mirror in a way that like you really don't, no one really has that opportunity to do that, you know? So that's obviously a positive. I think that there's lots of space for improvement, and I've, you know, taken it as an opportunity to sort of work on myself and better the things that, you know, I think that could use improvement. The revamp, you know, I think I think that the network had a very strong vision. I think that the vision was it was a very strong, clear message that they wanted to send, that, you know, obviously New York is such a melting pot of cultures, and they wanted this cast to really represent that. And I think they've done an incredible job of it. And, you know, with different cultures and different upbringing and socio-economic, like, you know, upbringings, I think it's been interesting.
Is there anything you can tease about the rest of the season?
Um, let's just say the momentum that we're seeing in the past few episodes continues. And there's a lot of, I think, it's a lot of drama. But it's really, yeah, it's starting to get heated now. So
Okay.
definitely watching.